All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session. If I can make the slides work. There we go. My name is Ali Hosseini. I'm the technical writer here at SpecFlow, and I've got Jordan Weston with me. He's our user journey engineer. Today is a guided onboarding session. So this is a hands-on session. Make sure you have your Visual Studio installed. Please use the Q&A tool for questions, if any. Please upvote for questions that are of interest to you as well. When questions are relevant to what Jordan is explaining, I'll try to interrupt him and ask him. Otherwise, we will have a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So we'll try to answer all the questions. We'll kick off with a little poll. If I can find the button, there we go. Just a very simple question. Have you used SpecFlow before? Just a yes and no.
Good, plenty of
Cool.
plenty of new people then.
Yeah, it's a 50-50. That's interesting. Almost 50-50. So I'll just quickly share the results. All right, that was just for us to know, our audience. I'll hand it over to you, Jordan. I'll stop sharing. There we go.
Thank you. Let me just share. Cool, let me know when you can see.
Yep.
Yeah, good. Okay, cool. So thanks everyone for coming. Anyone that's following along, please let me know if you're struggling to see if I need to zoom in or if I'm going too quickly. Just maybe pop something in the chat and Ali can keep an eye on it. Cool, so I noticed about half of people haven't used SpecFlow before. So I'll just, I guess, quickly explain what SpecFlow is. So SpecFlow is the official .NET version of Cucumber. So what does that mean? It means that you can write Gherkin feature files, inside of your test project using our SpecFlow extension. And so if you want to get started with that, then you just need to install the SpecFlow extension, which we'll come into in just a second. So you can either use Visual Studio or JetBrains Rider. We support, or we have an extension for both of those IDEs. So that includes using Rider on Mac. So yeah, we'll just continue without code here for a second, because the first thing we'll do is just install the extension. So I'm just going through this as if I'm brand new to SpecFlow also. So within Visual Studio, if you come up to the extensions section tab and just go to Manage Extensions, we can search online for SpecFlow. We should find this SpecFlow for Visual Studio 2019. And I forgot to uninstall it from the last onboarding session, so you'll have to excuse me, but basically you can click here, click download like it shows for DevRoom here, and then you need to restart your Visual Studio for the VSIX installer to install the extension. You can then relaunch Visual Studio and you're basically good to go. So with that out of the way, what we're going to do today is basically create a SpecFlow project, so I can show you the features of SpecFlow, and we're also going to create a class that we're going to be testing today, and that will be a simple calculator. So first thing we need to do is create a new project. So once you've got the SpecFlow extension installed, you should see this project template here provided by us. So you can give that a click and just click next. And it gives you this default template stuff. So we're just going to call this SpecFlow calculator. 2 seconds, sorry. Cool, and we'll create that. And you can choose other .NET frameworks. We're just going to keep this at .NET Core 3.1 today. And also you're able to use, your favorite, your test frameworks, XUnit, NUnit, MS Test, but we'll keep this on the SpecFlow Plus runner for now, which is a runner that we provide, which is slightly nicer in terms of being able to configure it for you know, your UI testing and things like that. So, and there's also this add fluent assertions library checkbox here. The reason we included that is because we like this library. It makes your assertions easy to read, and it's just generally a nice library to use. So we'll click create on that, and we'll just create this project. Cool. So what you'll see in the Solution Explorer window is a couple of default files. So you automatically get these with the template. So we'll have this the step definition here and this feature folder here. So I'll quickly just talk about these. Sorry for it being a bit sluggish. I'll just zoom in here as well so you can see a bit better.
Yep, that's good.
Yeah, is that better? Good. Cool. So what is a feature file? So this is where you would write your BDD scenarios, effectively your examples, your business requirements. And the reason it's nice is because it's in a business, not business readable, but plain text language. So you know, it's easy to everyone to read, not just technical people that are looking at things like, you know, code and unit tests. You know, you can give this to someone like your product owner, your business analyst, or, you know, people that are just less technical, and they can understand, you know, what's going on here or what the requirement is in plain English. Ali, how many languages is it we support? I forget the number off the top of my head.
Look, I know there is Spanish, Dutch, Deutsch,
Portuguese,
Hungarian, Portuguese. These are the ones I remember, but there are a fair few, so you guys can check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's super cool. So you can, chances are you can write this in your native language as well, which is nice. Yeah. Not just in English. Cool. So I'll just quickly cover what this step definition is. So if you imagine each of these lines is linked to a particular block of code or a test method, you'll see that if I just F12 on this, or I can right click on it and go to definition here, basically each of these steps is bound to a particular method or block of code using this attribute here. So this given attribute, it correlates to this given keyword here. And basically what that means is when you run your tests, when this line of code executes, then it will execute this particular block of code here. So you can see it matches the text on this regular expression. And then you can see there's this matching pattern here, which matches this part here, which is a number you can see in gray. And basically you pass that into your method as a parameter, and you can do with that what you want to inside of your test. So that's what I'm going to talk about now for the step definitions. I want to try and get into this a bit more. So cool. So the first thing we need then, now we have our test project, is something to test. So if we add a new project, so sorry for anyone that doesn't know, you can go to the Solution Explorer window, right click on your solution, go down to add new project, and then we're going to add a simple class library in this case, and we will call this calculator. And again, we'll use .NET Core 3.1. Cool. So we get our default class 1. I'm just going to delete this for a second, and we'll create a new class. So again, we can right click on the calculator project from the Solution Explorer, go down to add a new class, and we will call this, and I've already tripped myself up here because the project's called calculator. Let's call this calculator object. Usually I would just call it calculator, but hey. And now we have this calculator object. So we need our calculator to be able to do something. So I'm just going to copy and paste this code that I have here straight in here, and then I'll talk through that code. So we've got two properties in our object. We've got a first number, a second number, and this add function or method. So very simple, doesn't really do a lot, but it gives us what we need just to demonstrate how to basically test this object for its functionality. Cool, so I'm just going to check that this builds. It's always good to check that your build completes after you make your changes.
Jordan, sorry,
Yeah.
just before you go on, I've got a chat message here. Can you show what the VS template, which Visual Studio template did you choose?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So if I go to File, New, Project, and then it's basically here. So I've got it by default on the side, so I apologize for that. But if you search for SpecFlow, you'll see here, once you've got the extension installed, this will appear for you. And you can just select this, click Next, and go through the template options, and it will configure and include all of the necessary packages that you require for that particular template by default. So it's nice. You don't have to add all the packages manually from a normal sort of class library or whatever.
Thanks, Jordan.
Cool. I hope that helps whoever asked that. Cool. So what we want to do next is add a reference to our calculator to our test project. So from the Solution Explorer window, we'll come to our test project. We'll right click and go to add, and then project reference, and then we'll add a reference to our calculator. Cool. So let's do a build again quickly, just to make sure everything's happy. And it does, everything's good, cool. So what we should be able to see now is we have tests in our Test Explorer window. So there's tests by default, as I've showed you already. So this, when it compiles, will get picked up in the Test Explorer window as an existing test. So to see the Test Explorer window, you need to go to the Test tab, and then you'll see this Test Explorer option here. So I'm just going to dock this to the side so it stays out of the way. And after it's done a little bit of exploring, we should see we have one test in the calculator feature called add two numbers. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and run this, and we'll see what the result is. Good. So we have nothing effectively. So if we go to our output here, we should see, because we're using the SpecFlow Plus runner, let me just expand this a bit, that we actually have to register to use the runner. Okay, so in your output window, you go down to show output from tests, and then you'll see that this this message here with this URL says, please sign in for your free SpecFlow account or sign in with your already existing account. And you'll only see this with the SpecFlow Plus runner, of course. If you've chosen another one of the test frameworks, then you won't get this message. So we'll just go ahead and complete that registration just to show people that aren't familiar. So at the moment, we only support Microsoft authentication. So if we click sign in here, I will sign in with my email address. Cool. So if this is the first time you've activated, you'll see some intermediate pages. I thought I had a link in here to show you those in our docs, but I don't. But if you look in our documentation, maybe I can show you at the end. There is some other steps in between where you have to provide your name and things like this. So, but equally, once you've finished this, you can see it says congratulations, you're all set. You can now close this tab. And we should be able to execute some tests successfully. So let's close this down and this down, and let's re-execute and see what our outcome is.
Just slow down a bit, Jordan.
Yep, sure.
Thanks,
no
mate. Cheers.
Cool. So again, we should see that the test doesn't execute. And if we just expand the test details summary, we should see that we have the breakdown of the execution here. So we have our steps. So we've got given the first number is 50. And then immediately after this, we see this pending status. So we can see which method was called. So given the first number is, and then our parameter, and you can see that it's pending. So let's investigate that. So we'll go to our calculator step definitions. Let me just get rid of this for a second. Cool. And this. Good. So in the default project template, you'll see that we have this scenario context.pending. So obviously we need to replace this implementation with something in order to actually test something. So let's delete these, and we can then replace this with our implementation. Cool. Just out of curiosity, Ali, did someone mention I was going too fast in the chat?
Yeah,
Okay.
someone is struggling to follow. So
Good.
yeah, maybe do a quick recap what we did so far.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So to quickly recap, we have installed the extension from the extensions tab up here. We then would have needed to close and reopen Visual Studio. We have added a new project called SpecFlow Calculator, which is our test project using the template provided by us. And we've also created a new project called Calculator, which is a class library, which has one object called Calculator object, which has 2 properties and 1 add method. Cool. Is that good?
Yep.
Okay, good. We'll continue. And I'll try and slow down.
And the feature file is already in the template. So the
the
calculator feature file is already in the template, so you don't need to retype that out. So
and also the step definition. This step definition file will be identical for you as well.
Yeah, the skeleton code is already there. Yep.
Exactly. So what we'll do in this instance is I'm just going to remove this constructor because we don't need it. And we'll just save that there. So like I say, we need to actually get an instance of our calculator object into this step definition so we can interact with it. So I'm going to generate a new constructor. And I'm going to add a reference to our calculator object. And we'll just call it calculator object. And if we click on our calculator object and do control and dot, we should see that we can add a reference to the calculator project and add our using calculator, so that way it resolves. And again, on the parameter, if we control and dot, we can create and assign a field called calculator object. Cool. So some of you might be asking, where does this object come from? Does it just come out of thin air? The truth behind it is, behind the scenes in SpecFlow, we resolve this object so you can use it out of the box with your constructor injection or parameter injection. So when this executes, everything gets resolved and a new instance of this object will get injected into this step definition class, which is super nice. Cool. So we also need a reference to some result. So we'll create another field, private int, and we'll call it result. And this is where we'll store the result of our calculation in our tests. Good. So what we need to do now is we've got our object inside of the class, and that means we can do stuff with it. So when this executes, this first step, given the first number is something, we need to obviously store this number somewhere, and we have our calculator object. So I'll say this calculator object dot first number equals number. And for anyone that isn't sure, the number that gets passed in from the step, we're just assigning it to our first number property inside of our object. And just to recap, that's this parameter here. So given the first number is something, and then this regular expression is matching this 50 here. So that's good. And the same again, we need to do the same again for the second number. So this calculator object, second number equals number. And exactly the same thing is happening here. We have a parameter where we're passing in, automatically it's passed into this method, and we're doing that assignment again. And now we need to actually do something with these numbers. So we have this add function in our calculator. So I'll say this dot calculator object dot add. We can see this method's returning an integer. So we actually need to create an assignment to our result. So I'll say this dot result equals this dot calculator object dot add. So we'll do the addition, and then we assign the result to our local field here. And then we can do our assertion to make sure that our our calculation is correct and that we're doing what we should be. So we'll say this dot result here's where we'll see the Fluent assertions library. So the method name is should. It hasn't resolved because we don't have the using statement. So if we do click on this, control and dot, then we'll see using Fluent assertions. Yes, we'd love to add that so we can have access to the code. And then you'll see that reference gets added at the top. And then the syntax again is B, and then what we expect it to be essentially. So you can see that it reads really nicely. We can see really clearly what we're expecting to happen. We're just doing a comparison between the result that we got back from our calculator object and the expected result that we're passing in from our feature here. So 50 plus 70 should be 120. So let's just quickly build this. Good, we've got a successful build. So let's go ahead and just execute these. So if you've not seen the Test Explorer window, and similarly, it'll be the same in Rider. In the top left, there's just an execute button. Okay, we've got a failing test. Let's explore why that might be. Okay, cool. So although we referenced our add method, we actually don't have any implementation for this yet. So let's go and fix that inside of our calculator object. And of course, we have this throw new not implemented exception. So that's why we saw that. But what we do see is if we scroll down, we now see that given the first number is 50, this is showing as done. And it shows us the execution time. The second one is done. And the obviously the error has been thrown in this one. So we can see that quite clearly here. So it's just super handy for debugging execution. So simply then, we're just going to return first number plus second number. And that, of course, will give us our result. So let's build this again, make sure we're happy. Cool. And we'll just go ahead and re-execute these and make sure, or this, re-execute this and make sure that everything is good. Excellent, cool. So let's explore this a bit. So now you can see in the standard output that all of our steps are done, and actually we get a success this time, which is super cool. So I think another important feature is how easy it is to expand on your tests. So in our calculator feature, we only have one test right now, but I'll show you how we can add another one in very simply and make the best use of the existing steps that we already have. So I'm just going to copy and paste this in, and whoever's following along, I'll just talk for a second so you can also add this into your project. But effectively what we've done is added another test here for subtracting two numbers. And you can see, let me just zoom in here quickly so you can see all of these black steps are ones that are basically bound to a particular test method or function. So what that means is everything's resolving, if you like, and there should be no issues. When you get something like this, when we've added a new step in, this means this basically has no implementation. So we need to actually create an implementation for this. Otherwise, when we execute it, it will basically tell us that. In fact, let's do just that. So it shouldn't take just 2 seconds to run. Hopefully anyone following along can do a bit of catch up. Cool. So we'll see here, we get this output here, no matching step definition found for this step. So it even gives us an example here. It says, use the following code. Oh, excuse me. Use the following code to create one. So you can, I wouldn't recommend trying to copy and paste out of here, of course, but at least it tells you, where the issue is. So what you can do, however, is similarly with the navigation, where we would click, right click, and then go to definition. If we click this time, we actually get a message that says there's no matching binding for this. Would you like to add one to the clipboard? So we'll click yes, because we absolutely want to do that. And then when we go to our step definitions, all we need to do is Control and V, which is obviously the paste function for Windows. And we've pasted this straight in. So it saves us having to write this attribute and then this regular expression and the method name, etc., etc. So that's, yeah.
Sorry, mate, just a quick one.
Cool.
Someone's asking, how did you set up the constructed dependency injection of the calculator object in the step file?
Yeah, so the point is that you don't need to. So this will get resolved automatically. SpecFlow resolves this object for us. There's docs on this. I'm not sure how it works completely behind the scenes, but we have documentation on it. So we have both constructor injection and also, I guess you could call it method injection or parameter injection. So these objects are automatically resolved for us. So that's super nice. We don't.
Okay, because they're asking if you use some plugin, which is SpecFlow plugin, right?
Yes.
No? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's have a look and see what comes as default, and you will see. So let's go to dependencies, packages. So the only packages that come by default are these ones. I'm not actually sure where this happens, to be honest, where this resolution happens. We can look into that one. We can look into that.
Cool.
But just be assured, I mean, obviously you've seen, I've demonstrated that it does resolve this object just fine. So just take
as long
word.
as you have the SpecFlow plugin, it should be fine. Yeah, it
should be absolutely fine. So
thanks, mate.
Cool. Yeah, it won't be coming from the plugin itself. It will be coming from one of the libraries, but yeah,
okay.
just know that it works. Cool. So we have added this step in now. So we need to obviously create the implementation for it. So again, we'll say this dot result equals this dot calculator object dot, we'll just call it subtract because it makes sense. And we obviously don't have a definition for this. So let's control and dot, and we'll say generate method calculator object dot subtract. So we'll do that and we'll go to our object. And obviously, because we did that, it automatically created this, this method here. So again, very basic, but we'll just create the implementation. So this time we're obviously subtracting first number from the second number, and that's all we should need to do. So let's just give this a quick build. Cool, everything's happy. And now when we come here and run, everything should be fine. And the good thing about this is obviously we've reused, the given step. So let's just quickly go to here. We've obviously reused the given, the and step, and the then step. And all we've had to do is add an additional step to, get a different result. And then we pass in whichever result we're expecting to see, and everything just works, and it's super nice, and it's easily reusable. So it's just super nice. Cool. So that's it as far as the project. Is there any questions regarding the project, Ali?
Nothing so far, mate. There was two that I already asked you. Yeah. Okay.
Cool. So we'll move on then. So I guess the thing is, having the extension is nice, and being able to add this stuff in the IDE is nice. But what this isn't particularly useful for is people that aren't very technical. So people like your product owners, your business analysts or your scrum masters, anyone that's interested that may not be technical, may not have access to Visual Studio because of licensing issues and all the rest of it. So what I'll show you now is our living documentation plugin. So to install the Living Doc plugin, you need to go to the command line. Let me just pop this in the chat as well. Panelists. So here's the command you need to run to install the Living Doc command line interface on your machine. So I'll go ahead and do this just now. Just give it a second. Cool. And you should see a message in green telling you that everything's fine and that it's been successfully installed. So hopefully you're seeing the same thing. So what that means we can do now is actually generate our living documentation from our project. So the way we need to do that is we need to use a particular word here, which is living doc. So we'll type this living, if I had the right window active, living doc, all in lowercase, well, not living foc, living doc. And let me just paste this command actually before we go on into the chat window as well.
Jordan, how do we, is there a way to install the documentation tool, the living doc, offline?
That's a good question.
Mm.
I'm not sure, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm gonna say probably not. No.
No, I can't see a. way.
Can't see a way around it.
No.
Yeah, Ali, if we make a note of it, we can.
Yeah, I'll make a note of
find out if we
that.
can
I will
find
also
a
now
workaround.
paste the documentation link for Living Doc if you want to follow along for the how to install it.
And I'm just pasting something in the chat now, which is the command that you use to generate your living doc. So if you're still watching the screen, it's living doc, and then we need to add a reference to our test assembly. So the word for that is test, or the parameter for that is test-assembly. And the easiest way to get the path is to navigate to the solution from the local file system. So I'll go to C, users, and then in my case, SpecFlow webinars, but it will be your name, presumably. Source, repos, SpecFlow calculator, and then our SpecFlow calculator, which is our test project, and then the bin folder, and basically just navigate to the output directory, and we need to find the assembly that the tests reside in. So hopefully I'm not going too fast. Hopefully you are following along just fine. But we need to find the DLL that our tests exist in. So we're looking for, where are you? Am I being blind, Ali? Here it is, it's right here.
Yeah.
Cool, so we see this SpecFlow calculator.dll. So if we control, I believe, and right click, shift right click, we get this copy as path, and someone's raised their hand, Ali. Does someone need to ask a question?
We got a couple of questions. I think the easy one is, what is living documentation? Maybe a quick recap, tell everyone what living doc is in the first place.
Sure. I think we'll get to it. But basically, what it is a document that you can generate from your test project that basically you can pass to people that are less technical, people that don't have access to open the project in an IDE. It's a HTML document effectively that shows you all of your features, all of your scenarios, basically all of the requirements for your particular project in a shareable, readable, easily observable format. But we'll show you that in just a second.
Yeah, a user is having trouble, is saying a running test in the test explorer are inconclusive. Am I missing a step to sign into something? I'm guessing I don't know which runner they picked. This is in chat, by the way, if you're looking at it. But if you are using the SpecFlow runner, yes, there is a hyperlink there. If you need to sign in for if you can just show that Explorer box there again.
Yeah, so if I just quickly whiz back up to where we initially did it, it should still be in here. So if you're using the runner, then you'll see a link, if you've not used it before, to activate the runner, which is this. So you can control and click. If it isn't that, then have a look at your
it is the runner.
Oh, it is the runner. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So that will probably be your issue. So just go to the output.
Follow the link.
Yeah, exactly. And then just complete your registration.
And then they have to rerun the test, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. Okay, let's carry on.
Yep. Go
Cool.
on.
So just to recap then, find your assembly that contains your tests. Excuse me. And if you shift right click on the assembly, you can copy the path to the assembly. And this is our test assembly parameter. And we also need, well, we don't have to use it, but we'll use it in this instance. There's another parameter, which is -t, and we can actually provide a test execution file. And that way it basically enhances the documentation, the living doc that gets generated with our execution results as well. So in the same directory, we should see this file here, this test execution.json. And again, we'll shift click, copy as path, and we will pass this in to the command line also. And that's it. So let's hit enter. And you should hopefully see a success message. So you can see this livingdoc.html was successfully generated. So let's just flip back to the project root, I believe. Or actually might be in here it is. So sorry, it will be under users and then your name if you're following the same file format. You can customize the output, but that's a topic for another time. And we can just open this up. It's just a HTML file. So you can use it in your, your favorite browsers. And this is it. So it provides you a way of basically viewing your features and scenarios and your execution from inside your web browser. So, you could consume this inside of, Azure as a CI/CD pipeline or any other CI/CD pipeline. Send this off to people, whatever you want to do with it. It's just a HTML file that you can easily share with people. So let's talk through some of the features here. So this living documentation tab, you can see here we have this test results toggle. So maybe your project's not doing so well at the moment and there's a lot of red and maybe you want to hide that away. So if you generate with test execution results, then you'll get this toggle. If you exclude those results, then you don't see this at all. So, it depends who you're sending it to. You might want to hide that, but either way, if you include them, you can still toggle them on or off. It basically just shows you in the folder structure your scenarios, and the result, which is super nice. So if we'll quickly just flip over to the analytics tab, what we also get is breakdown of test execution results. So you can see it does it by feature level, by scenario level, and also by step level, which is super nice. We have this unused step definition section here. So if we had one, let me just add one in quickly. It basically just shows you where stuff isn't being used. So let's just add this in. Let's just change this. We'll just say hello. We'll just change this to hello. Build. Any questions in the interim, Ali?
There was one that was actually related to where the screen you're at. One of the participants is asking, what is the meaning of adding the @ in the step definition?
Sure, I'll cover that in just a second. So what I've done here is I've added the step and I've regenerated the document, obviously, because it takes the latest binding from the assembly. And if we just refresh this, we should now see under analytics, we have this unused step definition. So, it's pretty common that, if you've got a massive project, that stuff gets missed when you're, deleting tests, adding them, or, changing the implementation, stuff might get left behind. So this is super handy because you can clearly see what you've left behind and what you need to delete. So just to, I guess, digress a bit, I'm guessing, Ali, they mean these tags here, right?
Well, it's not very clear. It says, what's the meaning of adding the @ in the step definitions? So maybe in the step definition file. I'm guessing the @ as on the
this.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, I think it's that one. That's
okay.
my take on it. Yeah.
So it takes it as an absolute string. I mean, the others don't have it by default, but this is just I guess a string operation, I guess. Mm-hmm. So what it does, say if you've got a file path, this is nothing to do with SpecFlow. If you've got a file path, it basically avoids the need to escape special characters and things. So maybe you can just Google that and look it up what it does. I think it's called string absolute, but yeah, cool. You can look into that. Cool. So skipping back to the living documentation section, you can also filter by keywords. So one of these we had a tag on. Yes, we do. My tag. So we can filter by tags and we can search my tag. And obviously I didn't spell it right, so that's not going to do anything at all. And it will show you all of the tests that have this tag. So, if you've got specific tags. You might have maybe different areas of your application or other things. You can quickly filter, or whoever's looking at this can quickly filter and see which tests we have for those particular tags. We also have images. So this image is broken. I'll fix it in just a second. But you can add images to your living doc to enhance it. You can also add this, this markdown syntax here. I'll just show you that in the feature file in a second. You can add links. So you can see this calculator link here. Let's give it a click. Doesn't take us anywhere fun. But this one does, I think. This one takes us to our documentation, I think. Yep. Yes, it does. So, but just to prove the point, you can add links and you can see what that looks like in here. So you can see this markdown syntax here. It's just nice because you can enhance the way that it looks. Maybe you can add some rules for your feature, or some key points, or anything you want to write in there, really. So it's super nice. I'm just going to fix this image because I have the link here.
Hope that image is still there.
Yeah.
I had it there last week. Find out.
And I'll quickly just rebuild this so you can see what the image
Something
is.
also worth mentioning while you do that is that the markdown for the images and the links must be between the feature and the scenario. You cannot put markdown anywhere else in the feature file. It's not going to get rendered on the living doc. So between the feature and the scenario.
Yeah.
But the living doc documentation, it has all the details about this. So I will paste that in chat for everyone to have a look at the docs if they want to know more details about the things you can do. And the cool thing you can do is also link to the work items in whatever activity management system you're using, like Jira, DevOps, Asana, or whatever. You can actually link these items to those, and it's good for tracking.
Yeah, I guess we don't have any links set up by default as a template, but maybe something we can extend for next time. But Ali's dead right. So if you want to link, say you've got a test case in Azure, because you use Azure maybe as your Kanban or your Agile board, you can add links to work items. So you can basically click the tag and it will take you directly to that test case or bug or whatever the case might be. But as Ali said, it's all in the documentation. And the documentation is quite good, but let us know if you have any troubles with it. But it's all there and it's all ready for you to consume. So I think that's pretty much it, Ali, in terms of the demonstration. So let's get some questions answered. Yep.
Is there a way to execute tests in order? This is in chat.
I don't think so. I think they just execute the order they appear in here, which would be, I think, be the order that you have them in your feature file, but don't quote me on that. Unsure actually. Sorry.
That's okay. All right, so it's just hard because I still get questions in chat. All right, let's go to Q&A.
Yeah.
I'll start from the top, mate. Is it possible to make SpecFlow project and then run it from a web app, HTML with JavaScript and CSS? Or this is possible only in Jenkins after the build is triggered?
Let me just have a look at the question quickly.
Yeah, you probably need to do that.
Run it from a web app. Probably what you can do, the easiest way to do something like that would be to, on your custom site, you can, if you're using Azure DevOps, for example, you can trigger builds using their API. So that would probably be the easiest way to do that. Although something like Azure has ways of, triggering that stuff anyway from their own features. But yeah, if you wanted some custom implementation, you could definitely do that. I mean, you could either do it using their API or come up with some custom way of doing it. But I've never actually done it without using like an intermediate like Azure. So I'm unsure of how you might achieve that, but I'm sure it's possible.
Yeah, cool. Speaking of Azure, the living documentation does work on Azure DevOps like separately. You don't need to do it using a generator. Yeah. There is a dedicated Azure DevOps plugin or extension, they call it. On the, that it will just, you can have it as part of your build, and then you will render and show it to you as part of, on the left panel in Azure DevOps. So you can easily have your living doc in there as well. I will paste the link to that feature as well here so everyone can follow.
Yeah, I totally forgot to mention that. So just to recap, Ali, for everyone, what Ali was saying was we have a living doc plugin, so you can as a task, so you can just add the task to your build pipeline or release pipeline, and the plugin has a way for you to view these files directly in Azure. Again, making it more accessible to people in your project who are maybe less technical, and also gives you the opportunity to edit your feature files from Azure as well. So you don't have to open it in your IDE and make the changes, open the pull request, etc.
Cool. Check out the Q&A. Can I add my unit tests over the SpecFlow step definitions, or does it have built-in functions like the ones generated after opening the steps?
Do you know what we didn't cover? We didn't cover hooks.
We usually don't in the onboarding, I think.
Oh, we don't? Okay.
No, we don't do hooks in onboarding.
My unit tests over the SpecFlow step definitions. I mean, they kind of are your unit tests. I'm not entirely sure what you mean. Does it have built-in functions like the ones generated after opening the steps? So this, I guess, let me just talk about the hooks, Alex. I think this probably touches it.
Yeah, no, go for it. Yeah, we have time.
So there's a particular file that we can add called a hooks file. So let's just add this in. And we'll just call it hooks.cs. And I guess like your other unit test frameworks, you have similar attributes that will execute before and after or in between or whatever the case might be. So you can do stuff before your execution begins and after it ends. There's some other ones like before test run, after test run, before feature, after feature, etc., etc. You can read about these in the documentation as well. But these are a way to kind of set up your environment before your test execution starts, just like you would find in any of the other kind of test frameworks. So I'm not entirely sure the nature of that question specifically.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Maybe elaborate a bit. Participant. That would be good. Okay, cool. I'll move on to the next one. So we have a participant who's going on an interesting journey. They are switching to test-based development. That's the way to go. Is there a way to write series of test cases with SpecFlow or ingest test cases created in other systems in some systematic way?
I'm not really sure what you mean.
Yeah, I mean,
to be honest.
Yeah, write series of test cases. So feature files, I mean, if you have feature files, you can obviously copy paste them in here, but I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, your test cases are just test case created in other systems. So I'm sorry, I think I understand what you mean now. So no, unless you have feature files that exist somewhere else, then you have to write them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a way to do it backwards, so you can link tests to like Azure test cases, for example, from a project like this. And the way you would do that is first of all, you'd need to be signed into Visual Studio using, if it's a corporate account that has access to the repository. And then if you right click, you can basically associate this to a test case. Obviously, there's nothing here. And also you can't do it out of the box with SpecFlow Plus. But yeah, with any of the other test frameworks, you can right click, associate to test case, and then your test case work items, for example, in Azure will appear and you can associate them. And that way you can execute them from the Azure test plans feature without having to do anything at all. So you can do it the other way, but you can't ingest stuff into this project. So sorry, I do understand what you mean. And no.
Cool. Awesome. Can you, this one's from the chat, Jordan, can you import functional tests written in Microsoft Test Manager, MTM? No.
Say it again, sorry?
Can you import, it's in the chat, can you import functional tests written in Microsoft Test Manager?
No, I'm not sure what that is, but I don't think so.
Me neither, yeah, but yeah, the answer is probably.
There's no way of kind of importing anything. Yeah,
there's no importing really here.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Cool, and going back to Q&A, how can you force the sign-in step in the runner account? There is nothing at this point in the output window.
Okay,
Maybe.
so if you went through the sign-in process and have rerun the tests, then maybe there's some other issue there. If a common theme is that if you're behind a corporate proxy, then sometimes the activation token gets blocked through the proxy.
Yeah.
So what I would do is send an email to info@specflow.org and we can help you resolve that.
Or you can use a personal Microsoft account to not go through the corporate stuff. I think that would bypass it.
You can do that. I think that might have some, if you're using a corporate project like
Oh yeah, you probably can't do that. Yeah, fair point. Yeah.
So if you're having problems with it, just let us know and we can help resolve the issue. But that's usually the big number one is proxy issues and retrieving the activation token.
Okay, last one on the Q&A. When installing a new project using SpecFlow plus Runner, why doesn't it install the needed files to run tests outside of Visual Studio, i.e. the SR profile?
Oh, because there's a default, hang on, it does. So when you say outside of Visual Studio, do you mean like via the command line? Because you absolutely can run them. But yeah, there's like a default settings basically for the SR profile. And then if you want to configure something different, you can physically add one of those files and then change the configuration. But you don't need, I don't think you need, you don't need to specify the profile to execute the test from the command line. It's just like a default profile that you don't see in the IDE unless you add one. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Yep. Oh, hang on. I got a yes from the participant. Okay. Cool. That was it for the Q&A. If there are no more questions from participants, I think we can wrap it up. Awesome. Let me go ahead and share my screen if I can share the right screen. There we go. Yeah, so the recording will be available on our YouTube channel by Friday for this session. There are other onboarding sessions already on that YouTube channel. If you guys want to follow, they are fairly similar to this one, I believe, right, Jordan?
Yeah.
So you can follow those, and you can pause if Jordan is going too fast at some point. That's our YouTube channel. I already posted it in the chat. That's our community forum. Please go there. Vote for any new features you like to see in SpecFlow. We are an open source project, and therefore we are free. And we also work on things that are related and needed by the community. So yeah, we really care about the stuff that goes on in our community forum. So give it a visit. And I think that's my last slide. Yeah, thanks for joining. That's our website. That's our Twitter page and our LinkedIn page. Follow us, like us, subscribe, and hit the bell. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I've watched too much YouTube clearly. But thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you in the next session.
Thanks everyone.
Cheers.